I got a few bands I work with out in New York City. I play in a couple myself. I play with the Gil Evans Orchestra once in a while, and I have my band called Word of Mouth with various members, whoever's in town that I also use, in the New York area. And I have a steel drum band that I play with out of Florida. I got something, we've already recorded. I'm trying to get that, some label to pick that up. So that's about, and basically, some new music all the time, some rhythm and blues, basically.
Who were your influences when you were starting the first part? Did you have any particular ones, or
just the radio, anything on the radio, any form of music at all? Just whatever you turn on the radio. That was it. I like mainly rhythm and blues. That's my forte. Like funk and all that. Sam and Dave, that era. That was my big influence. And any pop music too. Anything that was on pop radio.
What do you think that you practiced that helped you use a great facility on the bass that you thought really helped you develop that?
Mainly cello studies. I've studied lots of cello stuff because it's very difficult because it's tuned in fifths. I mean, they go like this, Well, we just going across and forth, and super melodic, and excellent for your chops. It just keeps you busy. Bass books for me were a little. There was not that much in it. Some Mandel book. That was it. That was the only bass book out. So I just went and found anything I could. Get a violin book or listen to piano players. I was mainly listening to other things. Yeah, I like the way Jerry played. He played on a lot of the Muscle Shoals stuff and a lot of the Atlantic stuff. He was a big influence on me. That's basically where I'm from. With the bass. The R&B thing. I mainly got them out of books. Just go out and get Dot. I remember Dotzauer was like the main guy. Dotzauer, 113 cello studies. They're pretty amazing. Just basically finding most stuff like that. Violin studies are good too. Get the old Bach stuff, all that. The how you say the inventions, all those things. They're good for the hands. Definitely.
Do you ever see the possibility of playing with a three-chord again?
Well, Joe and Wayne, I think, just broke up now. So I don't know what they're up to. They're for the first time in since 1970, 71. They're doing their own things. I really haven't left Weather Report. I'm just not with the band right now. Because that's that sort of a band. Lots of things happen in people's lives. We never broke up. I just had to do other things. They had other things to do. Family things. There's lots of stuff that happened. So right now, Weather Report is totally on hold. So I don't know what'll happen next with that. But I would definitely play with them again. I probably will play with them again. We'll probably get together sometime. But I know Joe and Wayne just broke up. So in fact, Wayne's going on tour in a couple of days. Just talk to him.
You said you had all those projects going in New York. Do you like the playing atmosphere there better, or do you just like New York better?
Well, the good thing about New York is it's concentrated. You can fall out your front door, man, and do everything in the world within 10 minutes. So, so you don't need nothing, and you can walk everywhere. You can walk to 300 clubs and see everybody in the world in 15 minutes. So, that's good about New York. There's a lot. It's, you can't complain about really, you can complain about being out of work. Work's cutthroat, it's very cutthroat in New York. But most all the players are there. You ain't got nothing to do. You can walk down the street and you see somebody, you can't walk 10 blocks without seeing at least 300 guys That's what I like about New York. Cutthroat about it is, it's rough. It's just, you got to be ready for it. California's a lot. What? Well, LA's spread out. You got to have a car out here. In New York, you don't need a car. You just walk. You walk everywhere in a couple of minutes. It's a lot easier. A little bit, not much. I don't do that. However you call it. I mean, a little bit. I don't do it very good.
Do you just do these major projects, or do you get called to do like Chrysler commercials and that kind of stuff?
I don't do that. There are a line of guys in New York that do all that stuff. You know, they've had it sewn up for years, and they make all sorts of big money, and they don't let anybody get into it because they don't want to lose their gig, because they're good gigs. You know, it's tough to get in those things. You know, it's a big click. I mean, I'll do anything that comes along. Basically, I like to come up with new stuff. You know, like innovative stuff that nobody's got. You know, it's this dangerous stuff. You know, and everybody's afraid to try. That's what I do. I'm a scout. Do I? Yeah, you know, within musical taste, you know. I don't like to overdo it, but they're there. You know, I use them. I haven't played that music. It's tough. I could try it, but it is. I know I've not played it. There's basically it, I think. That's what they put. Oh, this is cool. I've played this in about 10 years. Yeah. I haven't played that literally since I put that on a record. It's a miracle I remember that.
How did you go about becoming aware of where all the harmonics were? Like, you started out yourself, or did you find some book that told about it?
It's all there. I was just tuning up. You know, I was just tuning up the bass one take, and I was just tuning it up, and I just heard it. It sounded, you know, musical to me. So I'd been, you know, like, you know. So I just, you know, figured out what they were note-wise, went across all the strings. You can just about play a legit chromatic scale with just with these 4 strings. You know, it's tough. I forget it. I figured it out once. Almost. I think you're missing one note. So that they're all in there. It's just a matter of the main thing to make that stuff musical. I mean, you always hear everybody on records hit these little chords, which anybody can do. That's corny. You know, I mean, anybody can do that. The thing is to figure out where all the notes are and what they are, and then use them, you know, like combine them into little chords. You know, there's not all that much you can do because it's open. You can do, like, you know, fake one. You know, like that. What I do with my thumb. Guitar players do with their fingers. You can do that. Or the thing with the open harmonics, there's only so many of them, is just to know them. You know, and then the other thing is like you use this like a capo. And, you know, then pick them in half. So, you know, it's very basic. The main thing is just learning what all the notes are, so that you can use them. I mean, there's only so many notes up there, but when you know where they're at, it's you know, it's very effective to throw them in. Flat, I know that. interesting sound. Who? I can't hear you. I just heard him a little bit yesterday or the day before. He sounded pretty good. Sounded nice. Yeah. Jeff sounded real good.
You know, it's funny because I never happened to across a Weather Report concert just due to whatever. Never saw Jaco live except on the records. So the other day when we first met, he said that I had never seen you play, and I said, you know, I hadn't seen you play, and it was just an interesting thing to, for the first time, seeing somebody, you know, who you know for so long, and I think it's like really good for everybody here just to see what a musician like this can do and what he has to say outside of the studio, because you know, a studio thing is obviously prepared to showcase the very best for everyone to listen to. And there's a lot of facets and a lot of sides to a player, so I think it's really good that you can check out all the facets other than just the preparedness of a musician. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of musicians are deeper than merely the tune on an album. So maybe your questions can be directed to that in terms of writing. I mean, the guy writes full orchestral stuff. I think that there's a lot of real pertinent information if you want to pursue that area.
Yeah.
Do you basically write everything you do, or sometimes you go in on the studio and you have a song and you just basically say jam it in a sense?
It's basically written, more or less. I mean, there's stuff. I remember the Weather Report we had. Sometimes we'd have the most amazing music, and it would sound totally as if we'd even comment to ourselves. Let's say this stuff was written note for note, and this stuff would sound the freest. And then we would play some free shit, and it would be, you know, and it would sound real technical because we were so tight. So it's, but we always have some sort of a format, definitely, you know, always. And as far as like approaching something, it depends on in the studio how much time you have to deal with it. You know, if you have some time up front, you come up with some newer things. I like to look at stuff before I have to go in and play it personally, just so I'm ready for it. You know, just so you don't walk in and fumble around, you know, make a fool of yourself. I like to know basically what's going on first, but then I don't like to overdo it, so it's still fresh. You know, I don't want to go in and sound practiced ever. Just hit it. But definitely we have. It's usually planned out, you know.
On a solo like used to be a cha-cha, how much time did you spend on that before going into the studio? How spontaneous was that solo?
It was pretty spontaneous, but I remember that first album. Those solos are pretty ridiculous. I practiced a lot of different things to throw in there. Definitely, because I mean that was my debut, and I came out. You know, I was like 23 years old, and I just said, you know, I got to come out with something powerful. And so I was practicing that stuff because that stuff was hard. They were all one takes, you know, everything. So you know, I was pretty nervous, but I had practiced a lot of stuff. I had a lot of planned things for all those tunes, you know, what I was going to play. I mean, that stuff is too good. You can't just make all that stuff.
I was going to say, Jesus.
You know, I mean, I'll admit that myself.
On your album, Word of Mouth, is that all written out too? All that obscure stuff that you did on that?
What parts?
The whole album was really way out.
Well, there's two tunes on side one are total. The one tune is the L.A. Symphony. You know, that can't be too obscure. I mean, it's a ballad. You know, that's not obscure. And then tune after that, Liberty City, is all. You know, everything except for the first tune is written out.
And what was that written about, Liberty City?
Liberty City, Florida, Miami, Florida, when they did the Liberty City, when they had the Liberty City riots. That's where I grew up. That's where I wrote that stuff. Yeah, in fact, it was funny because I named it Liberty City, and I didn't really have a name for it. I'd called it High Life or something, because it was sort of like a reggae. And I finally said, wait, I'm going to call it Liberty City. And I woke up the next day, and it was the Liberty City riots. It was strange. They had not had the Liberty City riots, which of course were the biggest racial riots of the 70s, I guess. So It was strange when I saw that.
You play mostly with 2 fingers or 3?
2. I use these fingers. I use to like to mute my thumb, and these fingers I use like to, you know, when you're playing, you know, so as not to make so much noise. You know, which is actually harder than playing. Really, that's the hardest stuff. It's really going is to not make noise with the other strings. Excuse me? I never have. I use my thumb quite a bit. You know, just like stopping and picking, you know, like quick.
You're using the your last 2 fingers for deadening strings. How'd you feel about working on that? I know you kind of build that up and can't.
I tell you, it's tough. It's very tough because, in fact, when people ask me about right-hand technique, I really don't consider I even have any. And I know it's tougher than the left hand. I just don't think about it. I mean, that's a really rotten answer, I know, but I just don't think about it. You know, you just have to, it's totally by feel. Just, you know, I mean, you'll be playing, you'll have to think, well, you know, you're making a lot of noise, so try to get your hand over there. That's about the best I can explain it. Get over there, and then you have the problem of not, you know, muting the notes that you're playing, you know. So it's a little tough. I seen some guy the other day who was just playing all over the place. Which was very impressive. Like he had his arm muting the thing. I couldn't believe it. It's tough though. Mainly what you do is you just let them fall really light, just like barely touching the instrument.
Do you rest your thumb on the string, or does your thumb just stay?
I rested on the E string and the pickup. That's where I rest my thumb.
Do you always play with a light touch, even if the sound is kind of real forceful?
I played usually with a real hard touch, all the time.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I play with a hard touch, and like when I'm playing the fretless for the tone, I'm usually playing pretty hard too, to get it to, you know, dig into the neck, you know, to get that growl. So, but I usually pick pretty hard.
If you break strings much, or do you pretty much know how hard you can hit it without doing that?
I never break strings. I broke a string when I was a kid, went my left eye and tore it off, so I made a habit not of breaking strings after that. And I play very hard. I mean, I throw my bass around, break it, I do all sorts of stuff. I don't break strings.
How do you change your strings?
Well, when I'm working real hard, I try to change them every night. You know, when you can afford it, you know.
Yeah, can you talk about your role in Joey Mitchell's Mingus? Like what was asked of you, or if you were given more of a free hand?
I came in on that day. In fact, we did it right down the street over at A&M. And I called up Herbie to do it, because she had some English piano player who really couldn't play. He'd transcribe the music, so I got Herbie Hancock to come down. And I was more or less sort of a co-leader. I did some arranging on it and stuff. And no, like I said, this guy had this guy from England had transcribed all of these Mingus tunes, but she had wanted to do. She wrote words to like the saxophone melodies, or you know, whatever. And we went at it like that. I mean, we had to play the tunes, but she definitely, you know, which is strange because I'm playing like Fender bass. I'm playing bass guitar for an upright eulogy album, more or less, you know. And we had electric piano and stuff. It was hip. I liked the way it was done, you know. I didn't want that old sound personally, so I know I had a lot to do with that. You know, getting electric piano on it and stuff. You know, it came out very good. But that, you know, we had to play the music. The music was down. We, you know, getting Wayne in, you know, then we call up Wayne and Herbie. We just took it out. You know, putting Peter. I think Erskine was on drums, so yeah, it was fun. But it was straight ahead. You know, they knew what they wanted. There wasn't all that much freedom outside of just when they asked you to play something. You know, they just tell you.
What about Singer from Des Moines? Were you credited with the horn arrangements?
Yeah, I wrote all that. I wrote that in about 5 minutes. Just coming into the session.
write for them? Did you play for them?
I'll tell you, I don't remember.
Just some blues,
It was right. Just one of my traditional riffs. Played with him a few times. I've never done any record with him. Probably because he lives on the West Coast. I live on the East Coast. Sort of hard to get in contact. I've sat in with him several times. Good friend of mine. But we've worked concerts together. You know, where on the same venue where I was on. In fact, I did a solo bass concert in Berlin once, and him and Gary Burton. We were on the same bill, but never worked with him. Like to. Good player. Stanley's great. Good friend of mine. We just did a duet album. Be out about a year or so. We don't really have a label for it. Yes?
When you're improvising, do you rely on patterns or do you have riffs? Like you have a riff book? What goes to your mind when you're just improvising?
Usually just form and melody is basically it. The dynamics. I like to play dynamically, which I feel lots of people don't do. You know, which is an aspect of music I think people don't really use too much. You know, like
Well, do you pretty much play what you're hearing in your head?
Yeah. Well, it like something will just start happening, like a flow. You know, you got to know patterns. Your hands got to know certain patterns. You know certain things, certain licks. Like you said, a lick book. I don't know about that. On stage, just pull it out. You know.
How are your kids doing?
Okay, they're all in Florida. I try to mainly, concentrate on melody and form. Keep the form. By all means, you can't, unless you just go for everything you got, But melody, I'm always, no matter whenever I'm playing, I always have the melody going in my head. And Joe would probably agree on that. Always have the melody going. I mean, I could be playing the most outside stuff, not even playing the right changes, but I'm still thinking the melody. And that's the basic thing, right, Joe? That's it. Melody is the whole thing. So you stay on that. Keep that in your mind. I mean, you could be singing that to yourself while you're playing this other stuff. That's basically what I do. And if you listen to the stuff I've recorded, it stands pretty true. I usually keep to it because you'll always hear, I'll jump in and I'll quote the melody, whatever, play it upside down, whatever you do to keep that going. That's the main thing. Of course, in the melody is the form, basically. Form being, chords and stuff, and you jump off.
For someone as famous like you are there still some musician left you wish to play with or even dream to play with?
Several musicians I've already played with, and play again, just like asking if I would play with Weather Report again. I'd love to get back with John Wayne someday. But, I haven't played with Miles. Still have never been all the guys in all my bands Miles is using now. I still have never played with Miles ever. And I'd like to play with Miles. Get back together and play with Joe. I haven't played with Joe in 10 years.
Here's your chance.
Here's your chance.
enjoy playing with good players. You know, like my father said once, he says, Jaco, you surround yourself with great musicians. And that's what I like to do. I don't like to play by myself at all. It's boring.
Do you have any recordings of your personal favorites?
What do you mean by that?
Is there anything that you like more than others that you recorded?
I've recorded?
Anything that stands out in your mind that you're more proud of?
Not really. It's like I got 4 kids, none of them are my favorite, okay?
You play Donald Lee right now?
That would be tough. I haven't played in a long time. I might try a little later. You know, that's a hard one. It's hard. I can play it slow, maybe. I mean, that first line is impossible on the bass. This is the hardest stuff because when I first learned it, I'm showing it to you slow because it's harder to play slow than fast. You know, once you get it in the pattern, I mean, I got to think playing it slow. I'm actually putting myself on the spot. Tough tune. We used to do it, you know, with Ira. We used to play it so fast you couldn't even hear it. I mean, we would hit every note too, you know. But it's easy. The pattern is easy. It's harder. Like I never practice things fast, ever. I mean, everything I practice slow. You know, I just wait till I get on the bandstand, like to start hitting, you know. But it's tougher, man, to concentrate. It's better too. It's tougher and it's better to practice slow and think of all the notes. It's because it's tough to get all that information in your head. I mean, you know, because you can just play Donald Lee, for instance, is basically, it sounds like a solo. It could be a solo Charlie Parker played on Back Home in Indiana. Who knows? But it's bad. So when you stop and think about it, then it gives you some real insight into really playing on the stuff.
You got a tune of Howard Robinson. You talked a lot about using the mental image of and practicing. Do you ever use that? Like driving down the road, thinking about a tune and just how you play it?
You mean like when you're not with your instrument or something? That's where I do most of my practicing. I very rarely practice. You know, like right now I'm practicing right now. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that to y'all. You should practice. But I mean, I work so much. You know, like right now I've sort of been taking some time off. But when I'm working, I work so much I really don't need to physically practice. I do virtually all my practicing just in my head. And I do it usually when I'm traveling, like you said, in a car, or people will always think I'm spaced out, you know, that I'm going out on them. But I'll just be like, you know, exactly what you're talking about. I do practice without an instrument. I do it a lot, like just before I go to bed, I'll just be laying down. Before I fall asleep, I'll just be laying down and think. And you can think real well. I mean, I can actually practice, and physically it feels as if my hands are practicing, and I'm not. I'm just sitting there thinking. In fact, I was just doing that yesterday. I mean, you can feel your fingers actually doing it. I don't know if it makes any sense, but it does happen.
Do you have dreams about music?
When I did this album, Word of Mouth, I worked on it so hard that the music started like haunting me. I mean, I would go to sleep. I had this tune, Crisis, which is so out, and it's just like a loony bin music. And I would go to bed and that stuff it would not leave me. So, but no, I don't usually dream about music now. I might dream about being on the road or something, you know, having some fun with the guys. But I don't dream about music. No.
You played with a lot of great drummers. What are some of the things that make you enjoy playing with one drummer over another drummer?
Time. What else? That's the only thing. Guys got good time. That's a basic. That's the only thing there is in music, man. It's time. Guys got bad time. Forget it.
No, but I mean, like among the great drummers, drummers, like, you know, all the great drummers got really good time. Why would you have a better time playing with one?
All the great drummers don't have great time. I'm telling you, man, time is it. Once they got time, you know, it's just a matter of preference of, you know, dynamics is next for me. Time, dynamics, then form. You know, how they treat tunes, knowing what they're doing with the tune. You know, there's a million different ways to approach a tune from a drum standpoint. You know, and then melodically playing. You know, melodically, I would say comes last for a drummer. I mean, he's got to be aware of the melody, but I mean melody within the sound of the instrument. But well, yeah, and the melodic content of the sound, even that basic of sound. But basically, time is it. And you know, if you ain't got time, forget it. You know, you should quit playing drums, get another gig. That's all there is. You know, and time is very important.
So, who would you say your favorite drummer is?
I don't have any favorites. I told you that earlier, but there's a bunch of them. You know, Elvin Jones, Max Roach, Tony. You know, Tony Williams, D. Jeanette. There's a bunch of them out there. You know, they're all great.
You said you grew up, playing pop music and listening to that. Do you do that at all today?
That's the only music I ever really hear. Just whatever I hear on the street, walking down the street. You know, there'll be stores open, radios on. I don't even have a record player anymore. You know, I just listen to whatever I hear. You know, I like the commercial stuff that's going on. It's nice, as long as it's got a beat.
Do you think you'll ever record like a commercial tune or say something like a Michael Jackson sort of thing?
I've played on several of them. You just don't know that I'm on them. But I have several things. In my first album, I had a tune, "Come On, Come Over" with Sam and Dave, and that was very commercial. You know, they were supposed to do something with it, and they never did. So that's what I want to do now. You know, like basically have an R&B band. That's my favorite type of music. That they keep calling me jazz player. Well, I mean, I can play jazz, but I consider myself a musician. I don't really consider myself a jazz player. And it gets you in a lot of trouble being, work-wise, because of, jazz people that we don't have the best reputation. Maybe say he's a jazz player, and then you don't get gigs playing rock gigs and funk gigs, which is my major thing. I play rock and roll better than I play jazz, but you just don't get in it because you're a jazz player, and then they think you're going to come and play Donna Lee for the first tune.
Everybody's hiring QB.
Yeah, exactly. I'm self-taught, formally self-taught. It was tough because I played. In fact, my reading isn't all that good right now. I mean, I'd have to practice 2 or 3 days, and it would be right back up to par. I just haven't read in a couple of years. But
you got to be taught that, Joe. What's this thing?
Well, we could do that too.
Yeah.
So, Brian, when you're writing music, do you write a melody first, or do you have a groove in mind and you put a melody to that, or how do you go about writing?
That's a tough question because music it comes out of you. Usually what I do, melody is usually the main thing. Groove is always the toughest to find a good rhythm for something. It's always tough. Melody usually is what comes out first, then form, and then you got to come up with some sort of a groove. What I used to do, I used to write like every day. I used to write a tune. I mean, really write a tune. I mean, this is something. I mean, like for a year, you got 365 tunes. You just sit down and make yourself write something that you think you haven't heard before. And but of course, my concentration level, I did that for about a week. But I kept that sort of attitude, and I came up with writing like really incredible amounts of stuff, lots of music. And what I finally started doing was I'd come up with some new music, and then go to sleep on it. Don't write it down. And then if I remembered it the next day, then I would write it down. And that's when I knew I had something good. That's about it. That was like where I cut it.
Do you remember like a real nightmare gig that you played where everything fell apart or was pretty critical?
Several. you usually bail them out somehow. I've had some bad gigs. Not too many. Fortunately. But you know, there's lots of times where sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. There'll be weather against you, especially with outdoor concerts are tough. That's times lots of things can go wrong. Sometimes you be in a funny club, things can go wrong easy. Club owner don't dig you. You know, you go on and fight with the guys before you go on, and something's going to go wrong. But, yeah, I've had a few. So we got way back there.
Yeah, when you played with Ian Hunter a number of years ago, was that like session work, or did you know each other beforehand? Or?
No, I just met him. The guy that had set up my first record deal was also working with Ian Hunter. Was his boy. And he thought it would be good, seeing that I was coming out basically as a jazz sort of guy, which they were pushing me as. Come out immediately, and I did the, rock and roll album, which was a very good album, and they didn't push that either. That was a very good album. Yeah, people talk about that. That's fun, yeah. And that was a good album. I don't know what happened to it. I should have pushed it. Same old thing. But that was just that was management. The guy that had signed me to Epic Records also was managing Ian Hunter. That's how we got together.
How have you done with management? Like, were there times early in your career when you kind of got the shaft from people, or
I get the shaft today. What are you talking about, man? Shit. Management and music just don't mix. Period. That's the end of that.
Or do you have somebody who takes care of all your?
Well, I've had like one person that worked with me that, he was a roadie of mine, and I just got him to start doing a business for me. I've never had a real manager. With Weather Report we had one. Wasn't. Of course, we split from them too. I mean, that's a weird thing to get into. Managers are managers. That's what they do. We're playing, and they really don't think about us too much. There's only a couple of really good ones out there.
On your trellis tone, do you get that just from your attack, or do you have your action set really low for that?
No, my action is not that low, as a matter of fact. It's sort of high. Not real high, but high enough to get good tone, My real instruments are over in New York right now, so it's not that easy to really show you all that much, But just medium, average. It's not real low. I can't play with the action real low because I play very hard.
Might be a lot of fun.
Exactly. Where are these guys at that can play? You got your bass too, right? Thank you.